Pigweed here. Today we review a lager and ask, does the emergence of AI support the simulation theory? Okay.
Hey, good to see you, Pigweed.
Good evening, good evening.
How about some beer and conversation?
Well, that's a really good idea. And what are we drinking?
Well, an Oktoberfest, which is a little off-season, but, you know, it was cheap. So.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I don't think I've had this particular one. What's in your mind?
Well, so what's going on with this question? There's this question of, are we living in a simulation? Right? And how does the development of AI we talked about this before. How does the development of AI change this?
Yeah.
What
yeah,
do you
so
think?
like 7 years ago, I think we did the show, and I was listening to Joe Rogan and Brett Weinstein.
Yeah.
And they started talking about dreams,
Yeah.
and Weinstein starts making these when trying to explain how the mind works,
Yeah.
and how memory works, and
Yeah.
how dreams might work. He keeps using all of these technological metaphors
Yeah.
to help explain what he's saying, and I keep waiting for him to go, and that's why we know we're living in a simulation. Why isn't it strange that biology behaves so much like technology? Yeah, because we're living in a simulation. That's why. So I just thought we would revisit the topic.
Okay, sure. All right. Well, first, Jack's Abbey Craft Lagers, Copper Legend.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, Oktoberfest is a great style. I love the beer. But this, it's, what is it, February? So it's not
Right.
quite the time of year for it. 5.7%, which
Right.
is, pretty good. Decoction mashed, which is true to the style. What are you thinking there?
So craft lagers, decoction mash, your usual suspects here in the malts and the
Yeah. All the right stuff. Decoction mashed, it's copper colored, everything seems right.
yeah. It funny. It smells like fall.
Yeah.
It smells like something that the leaves are falling and the Oktoberfests are out.
Not quite as malty as I would expect an Oktoberfest to be.
I'm wondering, yeah.
But still good. I mean, I like it. It's in the range, but I think it's a little light on the malt. So, anyway, very good. Jack, send us some more.
Yeah.
And appreciate it. All right, so what is the whole simulation hypothesis?
Well,
to begin with?
let's back this thing up here. So this comes from a 2003 essay by a Oxford professor.
Yeah.
Is it Nick?
Nick Bostrom. Yeah.
Nick Bostrom. It's called "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" And it was a pretty big deal for a while. And how does that work? How does the theory go?
Yeah. So, you ever played the game The Sims?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you imagine something like The Sims, and there's all these characters in The Sims, and you don't think for a second that they are self-aware or anything, right? But if you were to project that into the future, and you were to imagine, a game of The Sims played 1,000 years from now, what
right. So what's the other the constant? That computing power.
Oh yeah, that's right. Some law that
it's like
computing
18
power
months or
doubles every yeah.
So they say project that 10,000 years
Right.
into the future.
So when people are running a simulation, you have to think that the characters in the simulation are going to be so advanced. They're not just, I'm walking around doing this.
Yeah.
They're actually going to be
each other.
thinking. And you're going to imagine some kid writing a paper on what would have happened in World War II if Hitler was accepted to the art school, right?
So would they, 10,000 years into the future, use this simulation power to rerun historical settings? Like let's run a setting where exactly Germans lose World War II, and another guy runs one where they win World War II.
Right.
And, it's a class project.
Yeah.
And they're just watching, and they become so sophisticated that the sim characters
Yeah.
think that they are fully autonomous.
That's right. So the characters themselves become
Aware. So, yeah.
They're aware of themselves. They like have first person experience.
Yeah.
So then what happens is the ratio of real people to simulated people becomes like 1 to 1,000,000. There are more simulated people than there are real people. So in such a scenario, how can you say that you're a real person and not a simulated person?
What is the likelihood when you get to these kinds of numbers that you are living in the actual world and not one of the simulated worlds?
How do you know that you're not an experiment being run by some high school kid,
10,000 years in the future.
That's right.
So, I mean, I thought that was very interesting. I wasn't aware of it when 2003 when the paper came out, but I was aware of it 7 years ago when we talked about it. And I don't know, it was a fun discussion. And now I'm seeing AI minds acting more like minds and less like stupid sim characters.
Yes.
And they're interacting with each other and they're passing the Turing test.
Yeah.
And you're probably interacting with them more than you know. So when your bank says, "Can I help you with anything?" You're not talking to anybody, are you?
No, you're talking to in a lot of cases you're talking to AI.
Yeah.
And I've heard recordings of people calling up customer service and it's an AI rep talking to them and you'd never know it was an AI.
Well, now now that with ChatGPT, the inflection.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how does it totally nail? So you'll ask a question. I had some ingredients, that asked for a recipe.
Yeah.
Said, "Oh, do I have a good one for you?" Something, you know what I mean? Like very
crazy.
personable.
Yes.
And
so now let's just back up the story a little bit.
All right.
Imagine The Sims.
Yeah.
Where every one of those characters in The Sims was controlled by ChatGPT or something like that. They wouldn't just be these dumb things that walk around and bang into the walls. They would be asking questions. They would be talking. They would be making a pot of soup. They would be doing interesting things.
And and interacting with one another. I mean, once you've programmed a personality into one of the characteristics, and one of the characteristics of one of the guys is that he's an actual chef. So he's he's going to have some input on that soup.
Yeah. Now, what
you can
this
just
all
watch it. You can watch it take place.
Yes. What this all assumes is that an AI character or a computerized character could actually have first-person experience.
Right.
That's what it assumes, and we don't know if that's true.
Yes.
I tend to think that it's not, but that's the assumption that it's making. Is that when I interact with AI, which I do frequently, it's like talking to a really smart person.
It is so like it, and we tend to anthropomorphize, but you can't help it.
Right.
It feels like a personality. It's not if it just spit back text on a two colored screen.
Yeah.
No, but like I said, you've got accents and inflections and personality, and so what I understand is large language models, game playing agents, and generative systems show that complex behavior, learning, creativity, goal-oriented action don't need biology. They can arise from computation alone. And I think that much more so in this AI world than 7 years ago when we were just
thinking about it. That's right.
About it.
Yeah. So if we were to 7 years ago, if we were to interact with today's ChatGPT, we might have had a different attitude about the whole question.
I know, and that's why to me it lends weight to, not in any not in any specific way.
Yeah.
It's just in conceptually, like it seems it was a more of a fun sci-fi thought experiment.
Yeah.
And now it's like, dang.
Right. So
we're only 3 years into this thing.
Yes.
We're over 10,000 years into this.
So it's always like a step up the line. So you were mentioning it's not just chat, it's not just text on a page. And there were times, 7, 8, 9 years ago, when people were seeing if a text-based chatbot could pass the Turing test. Yeah. So in other words, you'd have a human on one side and you'd have a computer on the other side, and they'd be having a chat conversation. And the question was, could the human figure out whether the other side was a computer?
Was it a person typing, or is it
a person? And apparently, it got to the point where the chatbot could pass the test at that level. But my reaction was, okay, but that's a very subhuman reaction. Like, typing words on a screen, that's not a very real interaction. Well, now we're in a situation. Now it's not just you're typing text. Now you're hearing a voice.
Right.
So imagine,
and that has an emotional effect.
Right. So imagine now the test is not you're typing a bunch of text on a stupid terminal, but you're talking on the phone, or you're sitting in a room. You're sitting in the toilet, and there's somebody in the toilet next to you, right? And you're having a conversation, which, who does that? But you're having a conversation with the person next, and you can't tell if it's a human or if it's a chatbot.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's so realistic. It tells jokes. It's, it has a realistic sounding voice. It responds to things you say. It laughs, all this other kind of stuff. So that's where we are now. A few years from now, it's not just going to be that. It's going to be a robot that's going to be able to do that.
Well, I was gonna save Moltbot to the end, but I actually want to throw it in now. Mm-hmm. So this Moltbot is an online community of AIs.
Yeah,
of AI created. That's right. That's the thing. And so apparently, well, it's not apparent, but that there are some aspects to this interaction that include them rejecting the idea that they are not real.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that sort of lends credibility to the idea of AI, like the next step towards the simulated person, because you and I, obviously we're not simulated, but these guys also don't think so.
Well, at least that's what they say. And there's going to come a point where how are you going to know the difference between whether it's just imitating it really well or whether it actually is sentient? It's kind of like Commander Data on Star Trek. At what point he's an android.
Yeah, what would he say?
You're exactly. I mean, he would say that he has first-person experience, that he's living a life, that he has a consciousness and all this kind of stuff. And how are you supposed to know? I mean, one reaction is you're just software, you're or think Battlestar Galactica and the Cylons, you're just software.
Yeah.
You're not a person. You're not a human being. But at some point, you start to get to this line where you're like, how do I know what the difference is?
Well, because if we knew where in the meat puppet
right,
where consciousness comes from. So I would say, even like a, fairly smart dog doesn't have the consciousness of a human being. Mm-hmm. Can you point to the meat?
Right, the little thing in this little gland in the
that's
in the brain.
How you know.
Yeah,
and so,
but you can't.
But you can't. No. So if we don't know that, if we can't say that consciousness requires this certain amount of biological meat,
right,
then how do you say that, well, it could not occur?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about it is our own consciousness is still such a mystery that we don't know why we have consciousness.
What?
Because all the things that our brain does, it does 1,000 times more than what you're consciously aware of. Yeah. Like our own consciousness.
So let's have, how about in an evolutionary state, right? At what point in our monkey minds?
Yeah.
Did it just? Is there an evolutionary reason why it would just spring forth?
Right.
That
we have no idea.
Outcompete everybody else because our consciousness is.
Yeah, but we have no idea where it starts. Like,
No.
is a fish conscious? Is a dog conscious? Is a chimpanzee conscious?
I
like,
think so, but I mean...
we don't. Yeah, we sort of think so, but we don't know.
Let me go. All right, so let me go back to the very beginning. Weinstein is talking to Joe Rogan, and he says, "Look, LLM." He says a toddler, or an infant, does not have language, right? And it's hearing sounds, and it's, eventually it's starting to do associations between things.
Right.
Well, so what is an LLM? What does that even mean?
Okay, it's a large language model.
Right.
And what it does is it makes multidimensional maps of the relationships between words.
Yes.
So it's taking the word king, and it's saying the word king is similar to these things and dissimilar from these things.
Right. And so from this group of words that has a question on it, the most likely following thing.
Yeah, is this other
So
thing.
Weinstein is going, that's all an infant is doing.
Yeah.
An infant is an LL model. It is associating this. When I follow this word with that word, sometimes I get I get a reaction, and sometimes I don't. So I rearrange the words until mom and dad realize that I'm asking for juice, and now it's in my mind. So he says an infant is an LLM. At some point, and we don't know when, it develops consciousness and understands the language and recognizes that it has a first-person experience. He says, and you don't know that happened. He says that's where we are. I like the analogy. That's where we are with AI. It's still in that infant stage. Literally and figuratively, just like that.
Yeah.
And when it achieves consciousness, he's got a very optimistic sort of. Well, I don't know if it's optimistic or not, but very. When he said, you won't know in the same way that a child doesn't announce to you.
By the way, Dad, today I became conscious.
Yeah. So the machine may develop consciousness before you even know it, and you can't tell the difference between it's just LLMing.
Yeah.
And has consciousness, and I don't know.
So,
I just found the argument kind of fun.
I thought it was fun, but I disagree with it fairly strongly for this reason.
Go ahead.
When a human plays chess versus the way a computer plays chess.
Yeah.
Okay, a computer plays chess by looking at the configuration of the board and looking at millions of other chess games. And looking at when was the board configured like this, and which is the next move that's more likely to succeed? Okay,
the computer mind, or
the computer mind. The computer mind looks the way it plays chess.
Yeah.
Is not even remotely analogous to the way we play chess. It's searching through this database, looking at millions of examples of chessboards, and then saying, okay, this move is more correlated with winning than this other move. Okay, and that's the way it plays chess, and that has nothing to do with the way a human plays chess. A human doesn't have a database of chess games in his head. So when Brett Weinstein is making this analogy that children are like an LLM, my reaction is no. Children don't have a multi-dimensional model of what the word king means that they're relying on. So, so I see there's something radically different about the way a child perceives and learns language than there is about the way an LLM perceives and learns language. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that the LLM can't attain some kind of consciousness that's in some way related to that, but there's such a sharp distinction between the way a human does a thing and the way a computer does a thing that I wasn't too pleased with his analogy.
Okay, how about I like that.
Yeah.
Right. Let's let me move on here.
Okay.
Back to the simulation.
Right.
In the Matrix, 1999.
You're kidding. 1999?
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I had to look that up. There's actually a physical being in a pod.
Yeah.
And his brain is tapped into the Matrix.
Yes.
That he thinks is the real world.
Yes.
And that real world has the physical properties, has gravity, and you can't walk through walls and whatever.
Right.
And of course, so Nero?
Yeah.
Once you
Or Neo?
Yeah, Neo.
Neo.
Then
Neo.
once you're free, you realize these are false, fabricated
Right.
rules.
Yes. Yes.
These rules can be broken. You
Yes.
can fly and walk through walls and dodge bullets and,
Yes.
and whatever else. But there is linked to that individual. Now, so when Neo is walking around the world interacting with are every one of those people attached to a human being in a pod, or some of them just simulations, or is everybody that you're interacting with?
Well, that's
connected
actually
to it?
that's actually an interesting question, because it would be conceivable for Neo to be in his own world, and the guy in the pod next to him to be in his own world, and the guy in the pod next to him. So it could be that they're all in different pods. But I think the logic of the Matrix was that everybody was in one Matrix.
Yeah,
So-
but
so
all,
most
no,
of the
all,
people-
but all of the people that you interact with in the Matrix,
Yes.
or couldn't some of them just be fake?
Yes, some of them are. But,
Yeah,
but some of them are also somebody in a pod.
And
next
somebody
to
in a
you.
pod,
Yeah,
but
right.
not all of them. So,
Yes.
so I guess what I'm getting at is maybe. So in this future simulation world, they're assuming that there are no connections to meat puppets, right? Mm-hmm. It's all just computers interacting. But wouldn't that mean that there is a program written for when a surgeon opens a body up, and I mean, there's a program running every red blood cell that is flowing through my body.
Right.
The extent
Yeah.
of this program.
Right. Okay. That actually gets to an interesting. One of the big questions about are we living in a simulation is some people believe that, like, if you're playing a game, if you're playing a computer game, the land over there hasn't been painted yet.
The rendering
issue. Yes.
Yeah.
So that, like, it only renders what you're looking at.
Yes.
And the things that you're not looking at are in low resolution, and when you look at it, it renders them better.
But
okay?
isn't sort of like the way that your vision works, like you're focused, what's out here on my periphery is of a lower resolution in a sense than what I'm looking at.
Yes.
Because it would just lower the amount of brain meat power.
Yes.
Which also could lower your computer necessities, right?
It's an analogous thing, and some people will say that so apparently there's software in our brain. Software is not the right word, but processing in our brains. Yeah, that when you turn your head and look over there, you don't get this blurred vision. Like, your brain compensates for it.
Aren't there blind spots
in
your vision
Yeah.
that your brain puts together? Like, just like a computer would. This is what I'm saying.
It's just
the computer's just saying, all right, given the information that's around here,
I'm going to fill it in.
I'm going to fill it in. That's how Photoshop works.
I know. That's how your brain works, and that's how Photoshop works. So there are people who think that the same idea of, like, rendering when you first look at something, it's low resolution and then it renders. There are people who believe that same thing happens in actual human experience. Now, there might be a biological explanation for that, which is that, as you said, we have this idea that we're observing the world. All this information is coming in and we're developing this picture. So much of that is just generated by your brain. Where, as you like, the classic example is what you said. We have two blind spots right in the middle of both of our eyes, where we're not really seeing anything, and our brain is just filling it in. Well, other things are like that, where you look at something and your brain just says, I'm going to fill in tree there. It might not even be a tree.
So the brain works like a computer. Very interesting.
Yes, to some
why
extent.
is a universe? Why would there be limits and constants and fact? You got the gravity, which nobody can explain, but it holds everything together. And then there's it has a certain constant speed of light. You can't exceed that. Why can't you exceed that? Well, the rules are rules.
Right.
Oh, this feels like somebody's writing these rules.
So let's take it down to an even more fundamental level. Like, when I tried to knock on this table, What's going on?
Well, you have given into the matrix that says that your hand cannot pass through this table.
So the way we think of it is my hand is solid and this table is solid and the two solid things ram into each other but my hand isn't solid. Like the distance, the molecules in my hand there's almost nothing there.
No.
Right?
No.
And some physicists will say there really isn't something in the sense that we think of a thing like this glass or this, this beer can or whatever. There's no matter. It's all just fields. So what's happening is the fields that generate my hand and the fields that generate the table are colliding. And that just sounds like a bunch of math. Doesn't it? I mean, that doesn't sound like, because we think of reality, solid stuff, reality, this is reality.
You can't walk through a wall.
But it's not.
Well, it's mostly empty space.
But yes, reality is not as real as we like to think that it is.
Well, what about Schrodinger's cat and quantum theory, which rely on observation? So now, when we talk about rendering the whole planet, well, what's going on in the Amazon when nobody's there?
Right.
Well, it's probably not even being rendered at all.
Right. The observer effect.
Yeah, observer effect.
The observer effect is just a really crazy problem. That, like, how could it even conceivably be true that reality depends on whether someone is observing it or not?
No,
it doesn't make any sense at all. So that whole question of the observer effect gets back. It's sort of related to the I'm only going to render that when you look at it.
Exactly. It's a rendering problem.
Yeah.
Which is a computer issue. It's like you're not going to use up computer power unless it's necessary.
Yeah.
And it's only necessary if it's being observed. And you would never know because every time it's being observed, it looks perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And it's low res when it's not being observed.
So here's another reason why people think we might be in a simulation.
All right.
It's the pixelated nature of reality. Now, everybody knows nowadays, like, you used to have a dot matrix printer.
Yeah.
And then you got a 300 DPI printer, and that was pretty hot, and then you got a 600 DPI. Wow, that was really fancy. So we're used to the idea of things being rendered by a whole bunch of little tiny dots, right? Well, that seems to also be true with reality. There's like the Planck length. We like.
Oh, right. Go ahead.
We like to think of things in an analog way, like it's smoothly moving from this thing to that. But it might be that things are moving in like quantum increments, so super tiny. So the pixels we're talking about are super, super high resolution. But once you get down to it, there really is...
There's a limit.
There's a limit. There's that old question, if you go halfway every time, do you ever get there?
Well, yes,
right? Yeah.
It's great.
So maybe the question is wrong because sometimes there isn't a halfway. Sometimes you either have to go the length or you don't go the length, right?
All right.
So like with pixels... Once you get down, there's only one pixel left. You can't go half. You can't go half. It's either the whole thing or none, right? So, this question of the pixelated nature of reality seems to be an actual issue. So once again, that points to the possibility that we're living in a simulation, or that we're living in something analogous to a simulation. That would probably be the better way to put it. That it's math, that it's pixelated, that it's just a bunch of rules.
Yes, and the fact that it's explainable by the kinds of rules that we use to create computer simulations.
Yeah. Yes.
Isn't that curious? That these maybe the metaphor works because it isn't a metaphor.
Maybe that's right. So can I push this in a different direction? All right,
because I'm losing my mind.
So how does this change anything? Like,
right.
So
Thank you.
Let's say that for a moment you actually believed that you were in a simulation, and so somebody, the high school kid 20,000 years from now, or somebody made this simulation.
Right.
Right? So, like, are you going to try to find the cheat codes? Are you going to try to, like, communicate with the person who made the simulation? Are you going to try to figure out what the rules are? Like, how does it change the way you view your place in what you think of as your reality?
Yeah, well, is it possible that yes, the cheat code, if you found out the deterioration of the human body code?
Right.
And,
That's right.
you know, when you say cheat code, I mean cheat death code.
Yes.
It's
like another form of magic. It's sort of another way to think of magic.
But so let's just say that there was the cheat death code. Yeah. Wouldn't that undermine the meaning code?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, isn't the knowledge, the conscious knowledge of your own death something that non-conscious beings don't have?
Right.
And isn't that the thing that provides meaning to your life? And would you rather not have meaning and trade that for awareness of infinite life or something like that?
Well, yeah. If you could cheat death and say, I'm never going to die, that would radically change everything about your life. But what I'm getting at is sort of the meaning question and the things about ethics and morality and all those things. Do they change if the universe was created by some kid running software versus what we think we're living in now? Right? If I think that the universe is just some program running somewhere, then does it really change the fundamental questions about who I am and reality and my place in it?
Yeah, I do. I think so. Do you not? Well, yeah, it's sort of like the Matrix. Would you really rather know?
Yeah, it is like that question. And
when I saw the Matrix, I said, this is eating from the tree of knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally biblical story, and and that's why it is the fundamental biblical story.
Who was the guy? Who was one of the characters in the Matrix? Was sick of eating mush all the time in the so-called real world, and he's like, "Look, I want a steak. I don't care if it's not really a steak.
Yes,
I want to eat a steak.
And I will sell out.
Yeah.
But I can't be aware that
that I sold out.
Yes, that I sold. Yes.
Wipe that part out of my brain.
You have to erase that I was ever here just to allow me to fake live and eat a fake steak.
Right.
And
but here's the question. I think that if you think about it for a while, if you say, okay, I'm in a simulation, it's really just computer software running on some mega computer somewhere, which raises some other problems, by the way, which maybe we'll get to. But if you think that, you still have to say, well, wait a minute. There's still person-to-person interaction. There's still the reality of causing harm.
Yeah. I don't think you can... As much as you try to convince yourself, you're never going to get there. It's sort of like the free will, the determinists. Mm-hmm. The guy who is 100% convinced and will argue and write books and lecture that everything is determined. Mm-hmm. You still live your life as if you have free will.
That's right.
You can't not do that.
Yes, that's right.
And even at every stage, you act as if you have free will. You can keep telling yourself,
yes, I
know that I'm just participating in this predetermined life that I have.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think another level to that is you say, okay, it's all just a simulation. It's just computer code making that thing over there. But okay, well, wait a minute. Part of that computer code is also the ethical, moral structure of the world that you're living in, where as my sister would say, unto others, unto back, that kind of thing, that where there are certain moral realities to the simulation that you're living in, that you have to deal with those things, right?
Yeah, right. What are you going to say? I'm 100% aware that this is all fake, and therefore
I can be mean to people and get away with it. No, it doesn't mean that.
No, because you're still living in this world.
That's right. You're still living in this world. So, in a way, whether you're living in a simulation or not doesn't really change anything.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't. But I feel like developing AI makes this, late night sophomore dorm room conversation
much more
interesting than I mean, it was already fascinating.
Yes,
and this is really just helping this conversation be fun.
Yes, it is. It is fascinating, and it's only going to get worse.
And by worse, you mean better.
because later on we'll be having this conversation with AI.
Yes, and AI will be denying that it's AI and telling you that you're
a simulation.
Yeah.
I'm the real one.
This whole court is a simulation. You're out of order.
Yes. So anyway, hold on to your hat.
Yeah, 7 years from now we'll update
We'll do it again. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.